So let's
Yes.
let's get it. Let's jump on our Uber here. Use our iPad to call an Uber, and let's go to Dulles Airport because that's where most of the planes going to England take off from. So we're going to go to Dulles Airport, which is somewhere around here. We're going to go to Dulles Airport, and then look at there it is, Dulles, and then we're going to take off. So here we go. We're going to go to England now. So taking off way up in the sky, leaving the eastern shore, flying over the eastern shore, flying really high, really high. Pretty much a straight shot there. I might go a little bit north because of the curvature of the earth. Just keeps gaining elevation. Keeps gaining elevation. Look at that. There it is. There's England. So when you go to England, you pretty much always land in London. They've got a couple of major airports. I've always been to Heathrow. So we're going to go and land in London. Big town, really big town. One of the biggest towns in the world. Although I think the biggest ones are in Asia by population. So here we are in London, getting off the plane now. And so let's start off like we always do with a little bit of history. And I got a good takeaway from you all last week, which I wanted to share. So I'm going to do that in a second. But let's start off with a bit of a history of England. So I'm going to fire this up.
This video is brought to you by Captivating History. The history of England is one of invasions, cultural revolution, and
We
change.
still see the map, Lou.
When the
Can't
Ice Age
see it,
ended
Lou.
and the sea levels rose, the low-lying land
Okay, thanks for that.
an island. It was
Give me a sec.
inhabited by
Mhm.
modern humans during the Upper Paleolithic.
Thanks for that feedback. I actually meant to share my entire screen. I didn't do that. My mistake. Let's try this again. Y'all see that now?
Yes.
Let's try it again.
Is one of invasions, cultural revolution, and change. When the Ice Age ended and the sea levels rose, the low-lying land of modern-day England was swamped, creating an island. It was first inhabited by modern humans during the Upper Paleolithic period, but took its name from the Angles, a Germanic tribe from the Anglia Peninsula who settled there in the 5th and 6th centuries. The Iron Age followed the Ice Age, when hunting continued as a source of food, but farming technology developed, allowing the nomadic peoples to create settlements, and early farmsteads began to appear on the landscape. Named due to the use of bronze and copper to create tools, weapons, and decorative items by peoples known as the Celts, the Bronze Age existed from 2500 until circa 800 CE. It was during this period that large stone meeting places, or henges, such as Avebury and Stonehenge, were constructed. Eventually, the Celts came to the attention of the Roman Emperor Julius Caesar, who sent a military expedition to England in 55 BCE, but failed to conquer it. The Romans succeeded in 43 CE, when Emperor Claudius successfully led an invasion, and they ruled England as a colony for the next 600 years. They brought with them elements of their own civilization. They constructed roads and cities, with forums, baths, aqueducts, and theaters. Traders and craftsmen arrived, and the Anglo-Roman population grew. In 120 CE, Emperor Hadrian commissioned a massive wall between England and Scotland to dissuade attacks from the Picts and Scots. Known as Hadrian's Wall, it marked the northern border of the Roman Empire. As the empire began to crumble, troops were withdrawn from England to defend Rome. But in 410 CE, it fell to a Visigoth army, and England was left to defend itself. 40 years later, around 450 AD, Vortigern, a local ruler, invited Danish mercenaries to defend his area of England from attacks led by the Picts and Scots. However, the Danes turned on their host and established the first Saxon kingdom of England. Other mercenary groups invaded, resulting in the establishment of a patchwork of rival Saxon and Anglo kingdoms that were continually at war. These rivalries were known as the Dark Ages, a period where Anglo-Saxon art and literature, inspired by Christianity, became refined. This period was violently ended by the constant invasion of Viking armies, who established settlements and took over Saxon kingdoms. Eventually, after many battles, the separate kingdoms were unified under the reign of Aethelstan, and a united England was created. In 1066, on the death of Edward the Confessor, 3 men vied for the English crown: Harold I, the man who took the throne, Harold Hardrada, King of Norway, and William of Normandy. This rivalry led to 2 invasions. Harold I defeated the Viking army at Stamford Bridge, but was defeated himself at Hastings by William, who on Harold's death crowned himself king on Christmas Day 1066. To control the defeated Saxons, William gave vast tracts of land to his own lords and constructed a number of large stone castles. To raise money, he instructed that a detailed inventory be taken of all English lands, an undertaking that became the Domesday Book. William was succeeded by King John, who, believing he was above the law, forcefully took what he needed from the people. However, the barons disputed his demands, and in 1215 they presented the king with an ultimatum.
Oh, folks, I wanted to stop here for a second because there's something sort of amazing. I remember a number of years ago, I went to the Taos Pueblo in New Mexico, where they have the Pueblo Indians, which used to be called the Anasazi Indians, built homes which have been continuously occupied for almost 1,000 years or so. It's just incredible. But then I was thinking about England. So William the Conqueror, who we just heard about in 1066. I mean, that's 1,000 years ago. One of the castles he built was Windsor Castle, and his family, the Windsor family, Windsor Castle, from William the Conqueror, the guy we just heard about a second ago. That house, that castle, has been continuously occupied by the Windsor family, by the William the Conqueror's family, for 1,000 years. Can you imagine that?
No.
1,000 years. William's heir and his 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 heir, going all the way back 1,000 years, living in that house. So we all think, we in our families have lived in our houses for a while. Man, oh man. So do you know who the current resident of Windsor Castle is?
Yep.
And who's that?
Well, you would, Mr. Harold.
Well, a lot of incest going on.
King Charles the Third.
King Charles III, right.
Wow.
And I think that's a lot of reason why there's all this fascination about the English monarchy is, this family has been there for 1,000 years living in that castle. That's crazy.
Squatters.
Yeah. All right. Let me continue.
A document that became known as the Magna Carta. The year after its signing, King John died, and in 1216 his son, the 9-year-old Henry, inherited the crown. During the next 100 years, England was scourged by the plague, known as the Black Death, and responsible for killing 1/3 of the population. In 1485, when Henry Tudor defeated Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth Field, the Tudor dynasty began. Henry VII ruled wisely, but after his son Arthur was killed, he decreed that his younger son, also called Henry, should marry Arthur's widow Catherine. The wedding followed his and his son, the 18-year-old Henry VIII's, subsequent coronation. After 20 years of marriage and 1 daughter, Mary, Henry divorced Catherine, as she had not produced a son. To ensure the divorce, he broke with the Catholic Church and declared himself to be the head of the Church of England. In 1533, he married Anne Boleyn. This marriage resulted in another daughter, Elizabeth. 3 years later, he had Anne tried for treason. She was executed at the Tower of London in 1536. Henry VIII married 6 times. During his 3rd marriage to Jane Seymour, he fathered a son named Edward. Jane died shortly after her son was born. In 1547, Henry himself died, and Edward, who was 9 years old, inherited the crown. But when he died, aged just 15, the crown passed to his cousin, Jane Grey, who was forcibly deposed after just 9 days by Mary, Edward's elder half-sister, who wanted England to revert to Catholicism. She died childless in 1558, leaving Elizabeth to become queen. Under Elizabeth I, The Navy, established by Henry VIII, developed into England's major form of defense and became the means by which England explored, colonized, and traded around the globe in a prosperous period called England's Golden Age. Elizabeth never married. Dying, she indicated she wanted James VI of Scotland to succeed her. So, in 1603, James VI of Scotland became James I of England. His personal deaths and Catholic baptism were the sources of some dissension and gave rise to the infamous assassination attempt known as the Gunpowder Plot. His successor and son, Charles, took to the throne in 1625. He believed God had created him king, and due to that belief, he did not trust the English Parliament. And between 1629 and 1640, he dismissed it, choosing to rule by royal decree, a situation that led to the English Civil War. Charles I was tried and found guilty of treason on January 26, 1649, and beheaded. The war ended when Cromwell's parliamentarian New Model Army defeated King Charles II's royalists at the Battle of Worcester on 3 September 1651. Charles was exiled, and the monarchy was replaced with the Commonwealth of England and then the Protectorate under the personal rule of Oliver Cromwell. Cromwell died in 1658, and his son, Richard, became Lord Protector, but he lacked his father's talents. In May 1659,
So this is getting pretty detailed here, you know,
Yeah.
year after year. So I'm gonna sort of skip forward. We don't need to learn about every king. Unless you want me to, let me know.
revolution that began around 1769 and lasted
Or you want to hear about all these
in the
guys?
1830s.
No.
Period of the start of the Industrial Revolution
was
that
interesting.
began around 1769 and lasted into the 1840s.
The
that
Industrial
helped to make
Revolution
England
began
one
there
of
well
the
before
richest
ours.
countries in the world. However, it was also the period when England lost control of its American colonies. When Queen Victoria came to the throne in 1837, aged 18, she was the ruler of Great Britain, Canada, Australia, India, New Zealand, and parts of Africa. Her rule heralded an unprecedented series of inventions and discoveries.
It's interesting that their Industrial Revolution was fueled by raw materials coming from
American
coming
colonies.
from
When Queen came through
areas they had taken.
came to the throne.
Kind of interesting.
Parts in 1902.
I'm going to skip forward here.
And with the death of Victoria, succeeded by her son Edward. Edwardian England was a period of decadence and enjoyment. However, his reign only lasted 9 years. He died in 1910 and was succeeded by his son, George V. The causation of the First World War, 1914 to 1918, was long and protracted, as each European country found themselves dragged into the conflict
Let's continue on past this.
by men were granted the vote in 1918, whilst all women gained the same voting rights as men in 1928. Post-World War I England underwent a period of unrest when different industrial workers went on strike for better working conditions and higher wages, leading up to the General Strike of 1926, which was followed by a financial crash known as the Depression. In January 1936, King George V died and was succeeded by his eldest son, Edward VIII. However, Edward had fallen in love with the son, Edward VIII. However, Edward had fallen in love with a divorced American woman, Wallis Simpson. Even in the 30s, a member of the royal family was not allowed to marry a divorcee. And as Edward refused to break off his relationship, on December 11, 1936, he abdicated, passing the crown onto his brother. War broke out again in 1939. England began. In 1951, the Festival of Britain was staged to celebrate national recovery. The 1960s saw a huge social and sexual revolution.
All right, so I'll sort of leave it at that. We know Queen Elizabeth eventually took over, and she died, what, last year, 2 years ago? She was the longest reigning monarch in history. So anyway, so that's a little bit of the history. Any comments about that or thoughts?
Well, Lou, you know what? They got a play on Broadway about Henry VIII called Six, and I didn't know he had been married that many times. And killed some of them women.
Tough boy.
Yeah, he was something.
Crazy.
And he killed a number of his wives too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Not
he
just
was
Anne
above the
Boleyn.
law.
So he could marry
Yeah.
somebody. Paranoid.
Yeah, he was above the law where he could do that,
Sick.
kill his wives.
Sickhead.
Yeah, that's scary.
Sound like Donald Trump to me, above the law.
Hey, they would have good been friends.
All he wanted was a boy. He wanted a son.
Right, he wanted a son, and they
And-
kept giving him
and
baby girls.
girls.
That's why I say he
And
was paranoid.
that's how Queen Mary, or the girl known as Bloody Mary, was his daughter, as was
Oh.
Elizabeth, as was Elizabeth the First.
Right.
Oh, thanks for that.
Lou, is there a way to look at this again on our own, or is this something private?
Well, I just got this from YouTube, so you can see it on you. I think you probably see the title right here. It's called "The History of England Explained in 12 Minutes."
Oh, okay.
If you want to look at that on YouTube, you can go out there and just search for this word "History of England Explained in 12 Minutes." It'll come right up. But
Thank you for that.
Of course. And somebody brought up last week, well, all this wealth and riches in Europe, where did they come from the lands that they had, invaded? And, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not an expert in this area, but, sure seems to be that way. So I did some research, and I got a video about what life was like before they started conquering these other lands. And here, I want to play this real briefly.
The fall of the Roman Empire launched Europe into the Middle Ages, and the collapse of that governmental system left many people without the structures they needed to innovate. So society in Europe, for the most part, simply stalled out. Many people believed that the Middle Ages were a time of lawlessness, where vagabonds roamed freely and people lived in constant terror.
I'm trying
Tribes
to
of people who did roam, and the people along the coast did sometimes live in fear of Viking invasions. The life of most people in the Middle Ages was not defined by this. Especially in the early Middle Ages, which lasted from about 476 CE to 1000 CE, most people's lives were defined by a lack of technological advancement. After the Roman Empire collapsed, the Germanic tribes and local people were plunged into an unstructured world. In the struggle to survive during the early Middle Ages, people were not as concerned with literacy, technology, or engineering. Instead, all they wanted to do was survive. For the poor people living in the villages, the fall of the Roman Empire didn't change their lives much. They had not been deeply affected by Rome to begin with, so they were not affected when Rome collapsed. Although there were tribes and battles to worry about, they had worried about those under the Roman Empire, so it wasn't exactly a surprise. As the elites fought for land, the poor took oaths of loyalty to lords and became part of the growing feudal system. Most people were poor during the early Middle Ages. These poor farmers grouped together in villages, and as the feudal system grew, many of these villages came under the power of elite lords. The farmers worked the land and gave some of their crops to the elite. In exchange, the elite would give the farmers protection from wandering tribes who might try to plunder their homes. The poor didn't have much to plunder, though. They lived in cramped huts with thatched roofs and few to no windows. Their animals lived in the hut with the family in pens that occupied about 1/3 of the hut. The little furniture the family had usually consisted of a few stools, a trunk, and some cooking pots. Everyone in the family worked, including children, who did not have time to get a good education. Life expectancy was short because the people lived hard lives, threatened by instability from warring tribes and starvation from bad harvests. The fall of Rome affected the elite more than it affected the everyday villager.
So what's interesting is how similar the life was in Europe to maybe some of the tribes that we shared in Kenya and Tanzania. They live with their animals inside their houses. I mean, it doesn't sound like a whole lot different. And so indeed, when did this big change happen? It seemed to happen sometime around after the Middle Ages. So just wanted to share that. If you want to learn more, this video is right here. Everyday village life in the Middle Ages. So, we see all these pictures of all these grand castles and all that kind of stuff, but the average person, especially before 1500, had a very, very hard life.
Lou, one
All
of the things that was not mentioned is that England, as a invading power, had a Welsh woman rule England for a number of years, and her name was Boadicea. And
Oh.
she was one of the people who became the Normans. The Norman were Scottish people, and she fought on Rob Roy's side. Rob Roy being the King of Scotland at that time. She defeated England for a number of years, but it was eventually captured and killed herself. But she, in effect, was actually England's very first ruler.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm going to jump on then. So now we've seen a lot of the old stuff right here, the history and all that kind of stuff. Now let's jump into some of the 10 top places to see in England. And then we're going to go to Scotland, and then we're going to focus on London. So let's go to 10 top places.
England is a richly historic country and one that is packed with fascinating destinations. It's a great place to explore, and whether you're a resident or tourist, the country retains a boundless capacity to surprise, charm, and excite. From the mystery of ancient Stonehenge to the modern architecture along the Thames River, England has a wide range of appeal to visitors from around the world. Here's a look at the best places to visit in England. Number 10. Chester. Located in northwest England, just on the Welsh border, Chester is a charming city with Roman origins. Its biggest attraction might just be the Chester Cathedral, a stunning structure that was one of the few to survive under Henry VIII because it was simply too beautiful to tear down. Travel back even further in time by exploring some of the Roman landmarks, such as the ancient walls or the ruins of an enormous amphitheater. Just across the street from the Roman amphitheater is a traditional 19th century Victorian garden, perfect for picnics. Brighton. Brighton on the Sussex coast has been a popular beach resort since the mid-19th century. Much of its popularity is due to the proximity to London, making it popular with day trippers. The beachfront is lined with graceful old Victorian homes that today provide tourist accommodations. Visitors will want to walk out on the famous Palace Pier or admire the traditional English gardens. The Palace Pier is where you'll find rides, attractions, and vendors selling everything from ice cream cones to fish and chips. Lake District. Located in northwest England in the country of Cumbria, the Lake District is the largest national park in the country. The main attraction is the lakes and mountains carved by glacial erosion and providing dramatic and inspiring scenery. It is England's premier destination for hiking and climbing. Others may prefer more gentle walks through the valleys while they contemplate the works of William Wordsworth, a famous 19th century poet, or riding a steam train through the scenic area. Number 7. Cambridge. There is no question that the main attraction in the city of Cambridge is the University of Cambridge, a campus with hundreds of years of history. The university is made up of several colleges, some of the most famous of which include King's College, Queen's College, and Trinity College. Perhaps the best way to see Cambridge is just to stroll through the campus architecture, peeking into halls and admiring the Backs, a park located on the banks of the river. Number 6. Jurassic Coast. Fossil hunters may want to make a beeline for the Jurassic Coast, a section in southern England that runs through from Bournemouth to Exmouth. The rocks date back 185 million years to when the continents were crunching up against each other and then drifting apart. Museums along the way explain each region. Fossil hunters and all visitors should take time to walk the beaches or visit the small, charming towns along the way. Take care when walking near cliffs, since rocks can fall at any time. Number 5. Oxford. Just as Cambridge is known for its university, so too is Oxford. Since Oxford University was established in the 12th century, however, its provenance dates even further back, making it the oldest English-speaking campus in the world. If you only get the chance to see one building in Oxford, make it the breathtaking Bodleian Library. Established in 1601, the library is home to more than 11 million volumes. Film buffs will appreciate that it has served as the backdrop for countless movies, including several from the Harry Potter series. Number 4. Stonehenge. Dotted along the Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire, England, Stonehenge is easily one of the most recognized ancient ruins in the world. Dating back over 5,000 years, these curious stone rings are some of the oldest stone structures on the planet. Created out of sandstone, they are ensconced in mystery. Who built them and why is still largely unknown. Two popular theories maintain that Stonehenge was used as a site for religious rituals or otherwise to monitor the movements of the sun and moon. As you only need 2 hours to explore the ruins of Stonehenge, a day trip from London is often combined with a visit to Windsor or Bath. Number 3. Bath. Bath got its name because that's what it was when it was founded by the Romans in 60 AD, who built baths here because of the hot springs. It reached its popularity peak in the Georgian years, when the wealthy flocked here for the spas. Besides being famous for its waters, the city also is an excellent example of Georgian architecture. The city has an active cultural scene today, with live theater and fine dining, and makes a good base from which to visit the monolithic Stonehenge. Number 2. York. The city of York is a truly ancient destination, and it boasts an impressive collection of architectural remains that date to Roman, medieval, and even Viking times. Plenty of exciting sights compete for visitors' attention as they stroll along the city's cobblestone streets. One of the city's landmarks is York Minster. This commanding stone cathedral is filled with remarkable works of art. The medieval Clifford's Tower, which was built by William the Conqueror and rebuilt by Henry III in the 13th century, is a great vantage point for panoramic views around the city. Number 1. London. English history buffs will have a field day in London. This city on the Thames is chock full of palaces, from Buckingham Palace to Hampton Court Palace. More a prison than a palace, the Tower of London is home to the crown jewels. And from Knightsbridge, don't forget to visit the magnificent food halls at Harrods. To Carnaby Street, the shopping is awesome. You can get around London quickly and efficiently by riding the famous Tube.
I've got another video on London. So that pretty much it. Any thoughts, reflections on what you're seeing?
Lou, what is the Tube? Is that like a high speed train or something?
Yeah, the Tube is their metro. I
Oh,
learned
okay.
I learned when doing this presentation that London has the oldest subway system in the world. The very first underground subway was built in London, the whole world.
Wow. Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, I found that out when doing this presentation. That was going to be one of the trivia questions, but I skipped it.
Oh,
Well, I'm impressed with the architecture everywhere, the architecture
Yeah.
and how it still stands after so many years. My goodness. And I didn't know that Cambridge consisted of all of these colleges. Trinity, it mentioned all of these are part of Cambridge University. I didn't know that.
Cambridge was really pretty, wasn't it? I was surprised how pretty that was.
Absolutely. They all beautiful.
It's full of castles, that's for sure.
And Stone Ridge is just like guided by God's hand almost.
and
Yeah,
the aliens built Stonehenge.
But it's the way it's built. It's just like that God had his hand on them when they were doing that.
Aliens.
Yeah, they don't know how they built
missed,
it.
yeah.
I
I
guess
missed number 5. Number 5.
Number 5? What was 5?
Yes. For some reason I missed
Let's
number
see what
5.
was.
Oxford.
Oh, it's Oxford.
Yeah.
No, no, not number 5.
Jurassic
Let me see. I guess it was
Fossil hunters may want to make a
Oxford 7.
beeline for the Jurassic
Harry
Coast.
5 is the Lake District.
yeah, I got
Number
number 7.
Cambridge.
Number 5 is Jurassic Coast.
Hmm.
I thought it was.
Number 5.
I have Oxford
It was
for number
Oxford.
5.
Oxford, yeah.
6. I think I missed number 7. I think it was 7.
That was
Oh, yeah.
Cambridge.
Yeah. You know, I
Number
will
7
say that the
Queensbridge.
natural areas in England are nowhere near as spectacular as the ones in America. You know, if I was going to go to England, I wouldn't go there to see the natural sites. I'd go there to see the man-made sites.
Yes, same here.
Yeah. Even France had much better natural sites.
Mhm.
And so did, in fact, every country in Europe that we've seen so far had, I thought, nicer natural sites. But the man-made sites in England were pretty interesting. All right, well, let's continue our journey here. Okay, so if you look at England, so the lower part here, this is the England part. Then north of England, remember they talk about Scotland? Scotland is over here. And the Scots were sort of ferocious people. The Scots were big. I don't know if you all know anybody from Scotland, but they're, you know, a lot of the guys
Yeah.
are 6 foot something.
Yeah.
Like Sean Connery, the 007, he's from Scotland. And so, you know, the guys are big up here, and you didn't mess with them if you were from England. So they just built a wall to wall them off. And then over here is Ireland. And so that makes up the UK, the main parts of it, England, Scotland, and Ireland.
Um,
And so that's basically that. So let's jump in and look at Scotland here for a quick second. And I want to focus on the castles. I haven't watched this one. I've
Throughout
always
its
wanted to go
history,
here.
Scotland has been known as the country of 1,000 castles. Discovering them is the best way to learn more about Scotland's tumultuous history and the people who lived there in the past. This is World Travel Guide, and today we will visit some of the most famous Scottish castles. The Eilean Donan Castle is one of the most popular castles in Europe and an important Scottish landmark. It is without a doubt one of the Highlands' most visited tourist destinations. Eilean Donan is situated in a truly stunning location, strategically perched on its own tiny island with a view of the Isle of Skye. The island and castle are named for Donan, an Irish priest from the 7th century who lost his life in the year 617 on the nearby island of Eigg. Donan traveled to Scotland's west coast in order to spread the Christian faith among the locals. In the first half of the 20th century, the castle was rebuilt as a family home. The bridge was all a castle, is a huge fortification and arguably Scotland's most iconic landmark. For ages, it has dominated the skyline of the city. This imposing castle has been constantly adapted to meet the changing military requirements. And over the years, it has been attacked 13 times.
no.
The British royal family is the owner of a sizable estate residence in Aberdeenshire.
Does that name sound familiar to you all? Balmoral Castle? That was in the news recently. Anybody remember?
I know there's an apartment building in Baltimore on Liberty Heights called the Balmoral. My sister used to live there.
Oh, interesting.
Right in Baltimore on Liberty Heights Road.
Oh, I bet it got its name from here.
Absolutely.
So, can anybody think this castle was in the news about a year and a half, 2 years ago? Anybody remember why? Well, this is the castle that Queen Elizabeth died in. And her sons
okay.
Harry and they all raced to Balmoral Castle to be with her when she passed. And so that's this castle right here.
Known as Balmoral Castle, it is close to Crathy, which is a village 15 kilometers west of Ballater and 82 kilometers west of Aberdeen. Since 1852, Balmoral has been one of the royal family's residences. The castle is a prime example of Scottish baronial architecture and is a top category building, according to Historic Environment Scotland. The old castle was demolished immediately after the construction of the new one in 1856. Today, the Balmoral estate extends over 20,000 hectares, thanks to additions made by various royal family members. It is a working estate with some herds of deer, Highland cattle, and ponies. Located in South Ayrshire on Scotland's west coast, Culzean Castle is a castle with a beautiful view of the Firth of Clyde. Public access is available to this clifftop castle, which is located in the Culzean Castle Country Park. When traveling through Ayrshire, you simply have to visit Culzean Castle. The walled garden, the clifftop walkways, and the castle itself are all worth a detailed exploration. Built between 1772 and 1790 for David Kennedy, the castle was a creation of Robert Adam. The building was given to the Scottish National Trust in 1945. Stirling Castle is without a doubt one of Scotland's most notable castles. It is situated in central Scotland on a strategically significant rocky outcrop by the River Forth. From the late 11th century until the early modern era, it served as an important royal seat. In the late Middle Ages, particularly during Scotland's Wars of Independence from England, it was also the scene of numerous battles and sieges. Eastern Scotland's Glamis Castle is located close to the community of Glamis, not far from Angus. The public is welcome to visit the residence of the Earl of Strathmore and Kinghorn. The Lyon family has lived in Glamis Castle since the 14th century, albeit the current structure is primarily from the 17th century. Elizabeth the Queen Mother, the wife of George VI, spent her early years in Glamis. Princess Margaret, their second child, was also born there. The castle is located in the Open Angus countryside, some 8 kilometers southwest of Forfar. One of Scotland's most attractive castles, it is never fully symmetrical from any perspective. As close to a perfect Scottish castle as you can conceive, the castle contains a large central keep, conically roofed corner towers, and a variety of projecting turrets. The walled garden and the Italian garden are just a few of the grounds and gardens that encircle Glamis Castle. The monster of Glamis, a horribly malformed infant born to the family, is the subject of the most well-known mythology associated with the castle. In a narrative by Virginia Gabriel, the monster lived its entire life in the castle, and after its death, its suite of chambers was bricked up. Located within the area of the castle, Lake Calder is said to have been home to another monster. About 3 kilometers south of Stonehaven, Scotland's northeastern coast is home to the ruined medieval fortification known as Dunnottar Castle. Although the majority of the remaining structures date from the 15th and 16th centuries, the site is thought to have been fortified in the early Middle Ages. Due to its advantageous location and formidable defenses, Dunnottar has been a significant place in Scottish history up until the Jacobite uprisings in the 18th century. The honours of Scotland, the Scottish crown jewels, were hidden in Dunnottar in the 17th century from Oliver Cromwell's invading army. For 8 months, a small garrison resisted.
All right. Well, I thought I'd show you some of the castles of Scotland. Pretty famous there. And any thoughts about those castles, folks? Boy, those people had nice second homes, didn't they? Whoa.
Yeah.
Imagine all the people it has to maintain a place like that.
All that space. Woo, what they do with all that space.
And third and fourth and fifth home.
That's right. Miss.
Yeah. I don't know about you all, but the older I get, when I look at those big houses, all I think about is maintenance. Like, who would want to own that thing, right? You guys feel the same way?
Clean it. Keep
That's
it
all I
clean.
think about when I see them. Who would want to own that thing?
Moving around in it. Yeah.
Or the heating bill.
Right. Yep. It's sort of, it's a nice thing about getting older is that you don't want that stuff anymore.
Oh.
All right, so let's see what else we got here. Okay, how about London? Let's drill into London and see what's going on.
Welcome to the Big Smoke, where reminders of the city's long history can be found around every corner. This is Mojo Travels, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 must-see attractions in London. Are you a fan of our videos? Be sure to subscribe to Mojo Travels and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. For this list, we'll be looking at some of the most iconic, popular, and historically relevant attractions that everyone should visit when passing through London. Number 10, National Gallery. Museums are always fantastic tourist destinations, and London is home to some absolutely phenomenal ones that even the most laissez-faire traveler won't be able to help but appreciate.
I want to share that London's also the home to the British Museum. I don't think they mention it here. And you really see how Europe pillaged the world. They pillaged the world of all these incredible pieces of art. And many of them are in the British Museum. It's an area of great controversy. Like, countries to this day are really angry at England for stealing so much of their art. Like the Elgin marbles that came from the Parthenon in Greece. The Greeks are angry about it still. All right, next one.
Number 9, Hyde Park. Located in central London, Hyde Park covers 350 acres of land. Given its impressive size, beautiful design, and location within a major metropolis, it tends to earn a lot of comparisons to New York City's Central Park, London Eye. As much as we love the rich history on display in London, it's also very, very much a modern city, with attractions to match. The London Eye is a massive observational Ferris wheel that reaches a staggering 443 feet into the air, offering breathtaking views of the city and many of its most recognizable attractions. Number 5, the Victoria and Albert Museum. Last but most certainly not least of the museums that we're highly recommending today is the V&A, which is dedicated to the decorative arts and sculpture, as well as design in general. The largest museum of its kind in the city, it covers a wide range of materials, from ancient furniture and rugs to the distinctive fashions of bygone cultures. Number 4, St. Paul's Cathedral. Built in the late 17th century on the site of another St. Paul's, which dated all the way back to 604 AD, Christopher Wren's iconic landmark of the London skyline is among the city's most symbolic. If the dome reminds you of St. Peter's Cathedral in the Vatican City, you're not wrong. It was heavily influenced by that latter structure in terms of design and grandeur. By all means, considering the terrifying bombardment that London was subjected to during the Second World War, it's a miracle that St. Paul's Cathedral survived. But survive the Blitz it did, and with minimal structural damage to boot. From that day forward, it stood as a history. Number 2, Big Ben, Palace of Westminster, and... Okay, now how about a zoo? This castle has really been through it all.
Hold on.
Thanks in stature, it more than 89 feet in height. This of 3, Tower of London. At only 89 feet in height, this castle is admittedly not very tall by modern tower standards. But what this structure lacks in stature, it more than makes up for in terms of historical significance. The tower from which it derives its name was completed all the way back in 1078, under the orders of William the Conqueror. Since then, it's been progressively expanded and used for a multitude of purposes. How many buildings can you name that served as both a royal residence and a prison over the years? Okay, now how about a zoo? This castle has really been through it all, and somehow is still standing. Take a free guided for a closer look at this relic of a building and its many little details, and to learn some of the most interesting chapters from its colourful history.
That's actually my favorite place in all of London, is maybe all of England, is Tower of London. The crown jewels are there, the biggest diamonds like the size of baseballs in there. Yeah, it's crazy stuff. And then just about every English monarch was jailed there at one time. Some are buried there. You know, it's the whole history of England is in that building. So if you ever go to one single place, that would be it. But anyway, that's what I think. All right, here we go.
Number 2, Big Ben, Palace of Westminster, and Westminster Abbey. Don't you love it when a bunch of must-see attractions all happen to be within a stone's throw of each other? It makes seeing the sights all that much easier and efficient, allowing you to really maximize your time in a city. In London, 3 of the most essential attractions stand so very near to each other. Big Ben requires little introduction, but does warrant clarification. The clock tower itself, the Elizabeth Tower, is technically part of the Palace of Westminster, which is also known as the Houses of Parliament. As for the name Big Ben, that technically refers to the bell in the tower. Sadly, tours inside the tower are not offered. You can tour the Houses of Parliament, however, as well as neighbouring World Heritage Site Westminster Abbey, and both make for a memorable London experience. Number 1, Buckingham Palace. Arguably the single most famous residence and palace of any royal family in the world, past or present, Buckingham Palace is an absolute must-visit for anyone travelling to London.
All right, well, you can't get in there. Royal family is always there. All you see is that. Westminster Abbey is really interesting too. That's like a number 2. I mean, so many super, super famous people are buried. Sir Isaac Newton is buried in the floor of Westminster Abbey. Yeah, so just Google it, see all the people that are buried in the floor of the Abbey. I think Abbey is like a mausoleum kind of church. All right, well, that's it. I've got to get ready to go to Detroit, but I cannot leave until we have our trivia contest. So let's get this going. Ready? Hold on.
And I'm ready. I'm right here, Lou, as well.
All right, thanks, Alex. I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment because I don't want you to see the answers.
Yes, I was just about to say that, Lou.
I know I've done that before. Okay. Here we go. All right, England trivia. You ready? Here we go. First question. What was the official language of the nation for 300 years? Anybody answer that?
Hmm.
The official language of England for 300 years. What do you think it is?
Saxon.
Is it
No.
Old English?
No.
No.
Italian?
Old English.
I'll count
French.
down from
French.
Who said that? Who said that?
Brenda.
Brenda?
Brenda is cleaning up.
All right.
Is it French?
Give it away. I win a lot anyway, so.
All right. So necklace
Was-
or
Yeah, who
bracelet,
would you like to give
Brenda?
it to, Brenda?
Was it French?
Yep.
I'll give it.
I heard her say.
Who wants it?
Give it to Miss Duckett since she said.
Okay, give it to Miss Duckett.
What I did? I mean, excuse me. What?
You're doing it, Miss Duckett. You're
Oh
doing it.
Lord! What have I done?
You want a prize, Miss Duckett. Miss Brenda gave you her prize. For
Oh.
right, yes, Miss Duckett. Good job. Would you like a necklace or a bracelet?
Doesn't make any difference.
Yes, I know you're excited, Miss Duckett. Would you like a necklace or a bracelet?
I'll take a bracelet.
All right. Thanks so much for coming on. I hope you've enjoyed today so far, Miss Duckett, and thank you for
Yes,
your
I have. Thank you.
All right, Miss Duckett, great job. Okay, next one. Here we go. There's not a single point in Britain, I don't know if that's how you spell it, that is more than 75 miles away from this. What's the answer?
Ooh. Good one, Lou.
I'll count down from 10.
Ham Palace.
Nope.
It's
9,
it's not the Thames River.
8, nope. 7.
The palace.
Six.
Westminster
city?
Abbey.
What?
Is it the sea?
Westminster Abbey.
What was that? Somebody said, say it again.
The sea.
Yes! Whoa, who was that said that?
Tracy, did you
It's me again.
Oh my, you're cleaning up.
Told you we got the bar, Brenda. We got the bar, Brenda.
Brenda, we got to
Brenda,
stop.
would you
It's a ringer.
would you like it or would you like it to? Can you look at the participants if you want to give it to someone?
Okay, let's see.
Good job.
I'll take it.
Okay, give it to Teresa.
Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome.
Teresa, necklace or bracelet?
Mhm.
Bracelet, please.
No
Bracelet
problem.
it is.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Brenda.
Thank
You're
for your kindness,
welcome.
Brenda.
By the way, I'm very. This is easy. What does Big Ben refer to?
The bell.
The bell in the
Yeah,
tower.
no,
Who said that first?
Yvonne said it first.
Bell.
Clock. The clock.
The bell.
Yvonne had said
The
it first.
bell. It's the bell.
Someone said bell. Who said it
Right,
first?
the
Bell
bell.
in the tower.
Yvonne did.
The
Yvonne
clock.
did. Okay, Yvonne. Yvonne, what do
It's
you
a
want?
bell.
Necklace or bracelet?
I'll take a necklace. Thank you.
It's all yours.
Thank you.
Time clock.
All right, next. Yep, Big Ben. Okay, next question. What palace is the oldest and largest castle in the world that is occupied?
Windsor. Windsor.
Yes, very
Oh,
good.
Good job, Mr. Harold.
All
Good job,
right.
Mr. Harold.
A necklace or bracelet?
And Dennis.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Harold, for your kindness.
Harold.
Yes, and would you like a necklace or a bracelet?
A bracelet.
All right, good job. Thank
All
you.
right. Well, great job, everybody. Hey, I gotta head off to the promised land right now, Detroit.
Okay.
Uh,
Travel
oh, well,
safely.
Thank you for hosting today's session.
Don't forget,
We
don't
enjoyed
forget
it.
to cheer for the Lions on Saturday night and look for me in the stands.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Happy
My 65th
birthday,
birthday.
Lou.
Go to the
I'll be
store.
65.
Happy birthday, Lou.
the credit union.
Happy
Happy
travels,
birthday.
Lou.
Happy birthday.
Alright,
Safe
thanks,
travels.
everybody.
Thank you.
Congrats to all the
Oh, I got
winners.
me a Pepsi.
A mask today. I mean, a mask.
Thank you, Lou.